What if I turn one off? We still together? Yes, no?
Now you should hear us, yes?
All right.
Now I
Now
can
we
hear
can hear
him.
him.
Now I can hear him.
Okay. It's an either or.
Can you hear us, John?
He's muted.
But
John, you're muted.
you're muted now. We can't hear you.
It's
Sign.
only 2024, we're still figuring out.
Can
My
you-
granddaughter.
Or can you
Being
unmute
a
John?
teenager,
Am I unmuted now?
Yes.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
I don't know if you started the meeting or not.
Yes, we are started. Do you wish to make comments or present?
Yes, I do. Thank you very much for your patience with my 74-year-old technology knowledge. This concerns 3 tax parcels, 49J43, 660J207, and 457P255. The first 2 have hearings that are scheduled in the future, and evidence has been presented on one and will be presented later today that shows that the common level ratios in both the school districts and the communities included in the school district where the property is located is below the ratio that you would automatically apply. The third one that I mentioned has already been heard. It's before the Board of Viewers. There is a disposition from $2,679,200 to $8,400,000 using the 87.5% ratio. This was thought to be, when it was before the board, a matter that could be resolved on ratio. The former solicitor had agreed that a hearing involving a board member would be made on the correct ratio to be applied because everyone knew it was wrong. And after your former solicitor retired, the legal opinion changed that the property owner would not have a hearing on this ratio issue, and the assessed value should have been increased from $2,679,200, maybe double that, but certainly not to $8,400,000. It's a phenomenal burden when the inflated ratio. So what I'm requesting is that you consider a rule change that follows Judge Hertzberg's order, that the Board of Viewers is now to review equalization. I'll use the word equalization because that's what's in the statute, and that the rule change be such that when a ratio issue is raised, the hearing go before a board member. I'll also express that it was disturbing. I think that's a correct word to use to read the newspaper article that the board will hear all evidence, because hand in hand with hearing all evidence is considering the evidence. And we know from history that the evidence of common level ratio for that third tax parcel was not considered because the evidence, I believe, was there. It's just very disturbing because I think it's a tacit misrepresentation to the public that they can give evidence to challenge ratio, but it's thrown in the garbage can. It's not used. It should be used. If we had equalization during the course of Allegheny County's Fitzgerald administration people cheating on the common level ratio, we would never have had the Joffrey case. Wouldn't have existed because at the level of the Board of Assessment, at the level of the Board of Viewers, there would have been equalization, and Joffrey wouldn't have stuck out like a sore thumb paying an extra $3,000 or $4,000 worth of taxes. I think I've said enough. I'm just asking you to go back to the time when board members would consider uniformity, would consider equalization. Even at the court level, assessors attended the conciliations. They brought their field book, they brought their information, and no one was stuck out like a sore thumb. Okay, if I exceeded my time, I apologize. Thank you very much for allowing this forum.
Thank you. Ms. Trump, do you have any?
No.
Nope. Any board members wish to comment? Any other questions? All right, moving on. Do we have anybody else?
If I could make a public comment, just very briefly.
Your
My
name?
name is, yes, my name is Christina Gongaware. I'm an attorney with Siegel Jennings, and I'd just like to briefly talk about an issue we've been having. Early this week, we figured out about 10 of our cases were actually scheduled. We had not received notice for them. We just found them by checking the BPAAR schedules for the week. BPAAR was great in helping us reschedule them, but I think there's just a concern that this issue will pop up again when those rescheduling notices are sent out. So anything you guys could do to help improve that process would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Ms. Montgomery, do you have any input on what she's talking about?
Yes, Montgomery.
Barbara.
That's
I'm
Barbara.
Baldwin.
Baldwin, I'm sorry.
It's Barbara. Oh,
I think I've done that twice now. My
do.
apologies.
I do not, sorry. Mr. Farquharstein, I don't have much to add to that other than, as Ms. Gongaware has mentioned, she's worked with the appeals department, which is Ms. Brown's department, she worked to get those issues rectified. So we can work closely with the appeals department to see what we can do in future.
Ms. Bolton, BPAAR doesn't schedule.
Right.
OK schedules for us.
That's
So
correct.
that'd be more of an OPA issue and we just try to support as we can.
Yes.
Thank you.
For the record, the first week of hearings was pretty bad with the scheduling, and the appeals department was aware of it. They worked on it. It's getting much better. That's all I can say.
I think we're always trying to
Yeah.
better our process.
Receiving a notice is very important. We all know that.
You.
Okay.
Thank you. Anybody else from the public? Let's move on. Solicitors report. Ms. Trump.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, paperless appeals update. We have now moved to be full paperless. BPAAR has, with the help of the county and the Office of Property Assessment and IT, has moved to full paperless. So that seems to be working well. I've got good feedback this morning from board members who've used it. So very, very good news. I have a little quick disposition update, appeal update. As of the 14th, which is when this report was run because of the holiday, BPAAR has heard 71% of its 2024 appeals. It's a nice number, considering we're not even halfway through the year. Of the hearings heard, so of that 71%, after today, 38% will be sent out for disposition. So that's a pretty good number as well. 25% of all hearings after today have gone to disposition. So we're moving. We're going to do well this year. I think that everybody can expect that as long as there's always going to be a hiccup, there's always going to be a file that has an issue that might not make it, but we're getting through them and we're dispositioning cases out.
And Ms. Trump, for the record, I'm finished with all the appeals. I used to have to sign off on paper, done it all online. It's much easier, faster, better. And there's less of a chance of errors in math because of some, the other issues. But I see this process improving day by day.
So thank you for everyone who's helped, and thanks to the board for being willing to try something new. Because this is new, and I know a lot of times we're resistant to new, but thank you, and I think it's working well. So for business, I have a few parcels for action. I'm going to ask the board to take action. First is parcel 167 Ellis and Larry 195 tiebreaker 1. Tax years 2022 and 2023 were supposed to be scheduled with the hearing for tax year 2024. However, that did not happen, and at the 2024 hearing, the hearing officer and the property owner had this conversation. Somehow that went to disposition. And what we're asking this board to do is to rescind the disposition for tax year 24 and hear 22, 23, and 24 together in the interest of judicial economy. Because it's silly to now hear 22 and 23 when 24.
And this is number 2 on your.
This is number 2.
Here.
Yeah.
So I would move that 167L 1951 be approved as a recommendation of our solicitor. So moved.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Now it is so.
And the third is I have 2 sets of late filed appeals. As you know, the appeals filing deadline was April 1st this year. As always, late filed appeals roll in. People have reasons. Some are good, some are not good. The law is very clear of why we can grant a late filed appeal and why we can't. The first 4 are issues, actually 5, where they did not show any grounds on their face to file a late filed appeal for tax year 2024. So I would respectfully request a motion to deny the late filed appeal applications for parcels 1 H is in Hotel 299, 1 H is in Hotel 302, 851 B is in Boy 8, 550 E as an elephant 28, and 29A 307. You can see there the first 2. The owner had dementia, but the daughter held a power of attorney since January of 2023. The second one, the owner just didn't contact an attorney until after the deadline. The second and the third are a little bit more interesting. Those were tax exempt parcels that were purchased after January 1, and they wanted late filed appeals in case they lost their tax exemptions, which they won't lose their tax exemptions until 2025. So those would not be subject to appeal until 2025.
I'll move that item 3 on the solicitor's report late filed appeals, the recommendations for 3A, B, C, and D that we deny those.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved.
The last 2 are a little bit different. These were actually cleanups that I found in a pile in the back. I think they came to David and they just kind of got stuck in the pile. And so I have 2 late filed appeals that were filed in 2023. One was for 267 F as in Frank 40, and the second is for 226 L as in Larry 150. They're the same, kind of the same issue. There, from the face, there was no reason to grant a late filed appeal for 2023, but I believe we should treat them as timely filed for 2024.
Okay.
So I would request that we deny the late filed appeals for those 2 parcels for tax year 2023, but treat the late filed appeal application as a timely 2024 appeal.
I will move your recommendations on parcel 267F is in Frank 40, B on your report 226, L is in Larry 150, that we deny the 2023 and accept the 2024.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved.
I have one more item. This is also a judicial economy issue. This was a appeal that was 245 L is in Larry 40. Yes, I had 2 Larrys, so I wanted to make sure I didn't duplicate them. This was a 2022 and 2023 appeal that was filed in March of 23. The Board of Property Assessment issued a disposition for on June 7th, 2024. There was an interim change notice for 2022 received immediately after the disposition because the appeal lock was lifted. Mr. Bernanke, who is the property owner, representative reached out to me and he basically asked what we were gonna do. I suggested that if him and the taxing bodies who participated agreed, we could just apply the 2022 value to the 2022 change notice value rather than having another appeal, because that evidence has already been heard. I asked for him and Liz Sattler, who was the taxing body representative, both give me consent to do that they would present no different evidence. So with respect to that, rather than rehear it, I would recommend that we treat the request as a special appeal to the 2022 interim with both parties' consent and issue a disposition for the 2022 interim at the 2022 annual value.
Well, I will move that parcel 245L, as in Larry, 40, be approved for the interim request and a disposition be issued with the same amount.
Yes.
And you brought up the most important critical point. Everyone agreed there was no new evidence, correct? So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I have a question.
Okay.
Military terms, L is love.
That was Lima.
Lima, that's correct.
Company.
Charlie Bloxage made me memorize them because he got mad when I said K as in kangaroo.
And I remember that.
So I can't use Larry anymore, is that correct?
That's correct.
Mr. Fabian?
I just make up words.
Yeah.
And that would end my report.
All right, so moved. Thank you.
I have a request for the solicitor. At the last meeting, I asked for a legal opinion on the base year and I put it on here.
I'm working
Are you
on it.
working on it? That's all I need to know. I just need the scope I've talked to a number of our hearing officers that have different ideas of what a base year argument should look like. And I believe it's a very narrow scope where we change a value based on a base year deal. That's all.
I agree with you. It's a very narrow scope.
Yeah,
I'm working on it.
thank you.
Moving on, Appeals Department report. Ms. Brown.
Oh, real quick, sorry. Never believe a lawyer when they say they're done speaking. I would request a brief executive session after the meeting.
I was going to get to that, but thank you. Okay. Ms. Brown? Anybody?
Miss Brown is luckily on vacation. This is Mary Beth. Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can.
Okay. So Miss Brown is out of office. She provided on Friday before she went on vacation the board report that Ms. Schrempf referenced in her solicitor's report. Other than that, all I have to add is that we have hearing notices sent out through July the 8th. And we are working to see what else we can schedule with the information at hand.
Thank you. Anything else?
Question for Ms. Snyder. What percentage of all the appeals have not been scheduled? Very small, am I correct? 10%? Yeah, just about.
Let me look. I think it's on your board report, but let me double check.
Yeah, because I'm of the opinion we're almost there.
108.
Yeah, we're very
Yeah.
close.
I
I don't have a percentage because I'm not that good with math in my head, but we're looking pretty good, barring anything that we need to rehear due to administrative breakdowns or postponements.
Yeah, Ms. Trump has just brought out less than 2%. And I applaud everyone involved in getting us to that point. Usually I'm the guy that complains, but when you do something right, catch people doing something right, yes. 2%.
Less than 2%, 1.5%.
That's unbelievable. That's great.
But we round up.
But we round on it.
I thought we were, never, I'm joking. I'm not gonna be good.
Moving on. OPA, Ms. Brooks.
Ms. Brooks got pulled into a different meeting. She did not give me anything to share before she left other than I think we are awaiting some exemption feedback from the board.
So you're the third floor proxy, okay?
I am.
I have a question for Ms. Snyder, since you're gonna be Ms. Brooks. I was planning on asking her about the land building breakout. Where are we on that?
Done.
Is that correct? Ms. Snyder?
I believe that information was handed over for testing to the board, but I have not had an update recently, and part of IT is on vacation this week as well. So I think Ms. Schrempf probably has the most up-to-date feedback on that.
So we're in a position, if we want to pull the trigger on that land building breakup.
I think it's already happening.
Okay, it is.
Yeah, and it is, it has been locked in the system, so what the hearing, for people who have no idea what I'm talking about, I'm gonna use
Yeah.
words that they have no idea. But when you go to the recommended value on the hearings tab, and you put in the recommended value, it automatically calculates.
Question. Everything that I've signed off, I have not signed off on vacant land. How do we do that?
Vacant land has to be entered manually.
Okay, so,
Barbara, Liz, and I are working on the vacant
so
land.
it's okay for me to sign off on vacant land, all of
Yeah,
them?
we understand that vacant land,
I was just holding it until I had the green light on.
yeah, vacant land is gonna have to get entered manually in a different way.
And probably condos too, because it's
Yeah.
adding land, it's
Right,
adding
'cause-
building
Yeah.
value.
Yeah, because condos are the opposite, they don't have land value.
Just wanted to
So,
make
yeah,
sure, we're-
We know that's an issue and we're
so I'll sign off on it. Thank you.
All right, moving on again. Items for consideration from Board Administrator, Ms. Baldwin.
Yes. I would like to, 7A, I would like to kind of table that because Mr. Brett Yoder, who represents his client on this one, I don't view that he is on the Teams meeting here. So, and he was going to speak to the board, address the board on this matter, so. Okay.
Moving on.
And I have a resend and rehear for parcel ID 596F Frank 112. This was a timely filed 2024 school district appeal. The hearing was scheduled and heard on May 6th of 2024. It was this vote. The notice went out on June. This one came to, and I apologize, I thought I heard someone coming in.
I thought I did.
But I'll just get through this one right here. This one actually came to the attention of Ms. Brown. She did inform us that this hearing that was heard should not have been heard because the property owner filed a timely postponement, which was missed in that process in time. So that was an administrative breakdown. But because it was a school district appeal, I did place it on the agenda today. And Mr. John Gogol, that represents the school district, did not have an issue with this being rescheduled and reheard. So at this point, it's a resend and rehear.
And it's administrative breakdown. Clear.
We get a vote?
I'll make the rescind and rehear 596F112.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved.
Thank you. And the last on my agenda is just a request for Judith Gingert, was a former hearing to extend a residential hearing officer contract to her. This was brought up at the May 23rd executive session where, as the board had discussed it, I'm putting back on the schedule or agenda today to get a formal vote for her return.
Okay, we did discuss this, in fact, at an executive session. It was a unanimous decision at that time to not offer her a new contract. However, I've been since informed that we do have to put it to a vote. So if we could please have a motion with regard to this contract.
Not for me, because I disagree with your statement about what happened in the executive session.
So I'm just gonna say would somebody make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve. Excuse me.
All in favor? We have a
We need a
second.
Need
second.
a second.
I'll second.
All right, you have a motion and a second.
All in favor?
Yeah, okay, no discussion. I was gonna go over what we discussed.
Personnel.
Yeah, I know, but, it's privileged on your end, but not mine, but,
And on hers.
yeah, let's just, yeah.
Just vote.
Vote.
Barb, can you do by roll call? Can you do roll call, please?
Okay, absolutely. All right.
I know we don't do roll calls very often.
Mr. Snight,
I'll approve.
I will
Ms.
not approve.
Mr. Ferguson,
Not approve.
Ms. Ianzo,
Approved.
Ms. Lyle.
Approved.
Mr. Schuler, I'm sorry.
Approved.
All right, so that's a
And the vote is?
Vote is, yes, 4-1, yes.
4-1, that will pass. Thank
All
you.
right. So moved, thank you.
And that's all I have.
All right, moving on. Board approval lists. I thought when this was initially sent out, it was several different lists. This is a single list.
I only had one.
I
That's all.
I didn't,
I only had one.
had one with 1,305.
Yes.
And they were all for 2024. There were no.
and that would be 2024.
Yes.
Any opposed or recusals?
Who are you talking to me? Okay, no.
Any opposed or recusals? None. And I have none. All in favor, or may I have a motion to approve the list?
Motion that we approve the tax year 2024. I lost the train of thought. With board approval list. Starting with parcel ID 11J17.
Second.
All in favor? And any opposed? So moved.
Good.
And moving on. I just lost my. Any old business? I see a twinkle there. What's on your mind? Nothing?
Well, I'll wait. It may come up in the next meeting.
Okay. Moving on to new business. First on the agenda is rules and regulation changes for 2025.
Yes, as we prepare to make some adjustments in the rules and regulations, I just want to clarify, on the 2024, Ms. Shrimp, do we have them?
The rules and regulations?
Yeah, they were amended at one meeting and I went on our site and the 2023 are on. Could you just,
Yeah,
Work with Barbara.
I don't update them, but I can.
were they sent to county council? I'm just.
They were
They were
definitely
not.
sent to-
They were not sent to county council, but the changes to the,
Why weren't they sent to county council?
Oh,
no, I didn't even know that they weren't updated, to be honest with you, because I've never updated them before, but now, whatever the changes were, and that's why I sent an email to you and said, where are the rules and regulations, because I thought it was something that you were working on, but if not, then obviously.
we're good. I just remember I wanted a modification or a tweak in the rules.
And
I
they
don't know
were,
if you recall
yeah,
that.
they were done.
Okay, I didn't know.
Yeah, the board approved them, but I guess they just got lost in the shuffle to go
So-
on the website and go to county. I know I sent a copy to Mr. Barhola.
Okay, good. We'll work it out. And part of that is, I would bring to your attention, made a copy of that order of the court on the BV. I'll just read the case number BV 21-2927. There was a big article in yesterday posted that where some of us were quoted. And all I can tell you is, at this point, based on a court order from a judge, we have two tribunals here in Allegheny County. One is the Board of Property Assessment Appeals and Review, and the Board of Viewers of Common Pleas Court. We now have two methodologies that are available. They are not in sync with each other. And I would like to just go back to when I served on this board in the late 90s, 2000, we permitted uniformity arguments. In the last 24 years, this board has not. I went before it's called the new board in the ordinance under home rule. And I was told by hearing officers, you can't argue assessments on the street. You can't argue assessment to sell ratios. All you can do is very limited to market value. And what I'm saying is, in my opinion, the judge here is saying you can argue uniformity, period. And I'm going to make a motion that we petition Judge Hertzberg to ask have BPAAR, the Board of Property Assessment, Appeals and Review, also comply with this order. So moved. Is there a second?
All in favor?
You want me to discuss?
Yeah,
Yeah, we should have some discussion. This is a big deal.
Right.
I want to make sure the board members are clear on the pros and cons of
I guess you
arguing.
saw it in my eyes.
Yeah. Do you have a question, or you want me to expand on it?
If you could expand on it, I'd appreciate it.
All right. Once upon a time in Allegheny County, in this room, I heard appeals. The county assessor was here, and the county assessor would give us the ratio of assessments to sales prices in the neighborhood. I don't know if IAS World has the ability to do that. I do know, as manager of the assessment office, I knew the countywide ratio before it was certified by STEP. So what I'm saying is, whether it's by school district, by neighborhood, whatever the ratio of assessments to current sales prices is in a certain area, it may be different than the 54.5%, which is what we are applying. It's mandatory right now under state law. What the judge is saying here is there's another method where different ratios can be used. I remember talking to Phyllis Lavelle, who was chairman of the board back in 2006, and David Montgomery, who was Amy Shremp's predecessor as solicitor, and they both said, well, Mike, that doesn't apply to BPAAR. And I said, it did, in my opinion. It was correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Shremp, it was a state Supreme Court case.
Well, it's Downingtown and it's also state law. I mean, the second class county tax code
Okay.
does say.
So what I'm saying here is, without a judge putting it in writing, we can change the policy, and we have over the years. Or, right now, we have no policy. You know, if you vote this down, what we're saying is, we're not going to permit these types of arguments. And all I'm asking the board to do is petition the judge. And when I was on the board in the 90s, we petitioned the judge 3 times, and I think it was 2-1. The judge said yes, no. This avoids litigation, you know, because someone will eventually sue the board. And again, Ms. Shremp, you know, our job is to just get it right. And the purpose of the motion is that we get it right. Now, is there a job description in this court order? No. We were, you know, if the judge comes back and says the board will do this, permit common law, common level ratios, as opposed to statutory common level ratios, then we should comply. And I'm all for that. Does that help?
Yeah, I don't disagree. I guess the question is, and I'm on board with you 100%. Applying the common level ratio as a whole, it'll be different for, I'm going to say Braddock than what it's going to be for Stanton Heights, because the values are going to be different. Who will provide that information for us?
Did come?
Oh, really? And how are they gonna do that?
Can I make an explanation?
Please,
Yeah.
wait a minute, you're not a board member.
Can I just make a legal explanation?
Yeah.
That might be helpful. And when I spoke with Mr. Valco about the article the other day, I made this comment to him because he asked the question, and I think it was a great question. He asked about, like, will we use the countywide CLR? And that's the default, right? I think under the code, under the law, the countywide CLR is the default. So if you don't bring any evidence of any other CLR, you default to the county. It's countywide CLR, which is what STEP provides. I think that the appellant has the opportunity to prove a different CLR. They have to prove what is the applicable neighborhood, what is the applicable area. I do, absolutely. I think it's state law. They have to prove it, but they have to prove what's the applicable neighborhood, what's the applicable state law. And I keep saying you have to prove it because, I'm sure you all saw the quote in the paper, you just can't.
And I presented the uniformity argument, and I was told we don't do that. My argument, I used West Penn multi-list sales, say in Squirrel Hill. I did the same thing the school districts do. I looked at 200 sales, And then I came up with a ratio of base year ratio, assessment, the current sales price. And I'd be willing to bet, based on the appeals I've heard so far and observed, and I don't know if you agree, some of the ratios are very low in certain neighborhoods, like 20 to 30%. So is it fair? Is it uniform? Does it pass constitutional muster if we just slap on a uniform countywide ratio? And in this court order, the judge seems to agree with my notion that we just move forward. Again, it will involve training. Mr. Gallagher from the Pittsburgh School District, the attorney, said that the people at the Board of Viewers are more sophisticated than the appeals board. And I took great umbrage with that because we have state certified general appraisers hearing the high-end appeals. And this is where the bulk of these arguments, Downingtown was commercial, am I right?
It was.
So it's a sophisticated argument, but in my opinion, it's not a legal opinion, based on Downingtown and this court order from the judge dated, what, May 29th. This opinion, it is my opinion that we should permit these types of appeals moving forward. And so be it. If it's a good argument, you give it a thumbs up. If it's a bad argument, Mr. Snipe, you give it a thumbs down.
I agree. Thank you for that thorough explanation.
I believe you have a motion and second on the table if you're ready.
I'm ready
Oh,
for that.
and it was to be included in the rules and regs for 25, as everyone knows, October 1st is the deadline for 2025. Just make sure people are aware that there's an alternative.
I'm ready.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? So moved. Item B,
Oh, item B, how do we make the transition to October 1st? I assume OPA and Ms. Baldwin or Ms. Shrimp, everybody's on board. A new appeal form will be going out.
We've started to talk about the
Okay.
background.
So there might be a tweak here and there. We've learned from whatever we did before, but the word is getting out there. You know, I've seen it on social media. A lot of the attorneys that represent people in school districts, don't you agree that
I've
they
gotten some
know?
inquiries, yeah. I've gotten some inquiries, when is the appeal window gonna open? It's August 1st. But,
And
you know, if you apply early, we're not gonna turn it down.
one last thing, my only request, it's not a motion, is that OPA and BPAAR have the same message on, OPA has its own site, BPAAR has its own site, that the same wording is, I don't know, I'm just throwing this out, say the date October 1 is the appeals deadline for tax year 2025. I'm not giving you the wording, but I think the sooner the better. You know, this ordinance passed and we have a very short timeline between now and August 1st, right?
No, they're asking us to do a whole lot in a whole short period of time.
Yeah.
Finish all our appeals and roll out a whole nother appeal season. It's
Yeah.
gonna be a lot of work for BAR and for.
It is. That's all.
moving on to C.
Well, we already discussed that. And the sales comparable approach to value, we've had discussions on this. I'd like to maybe an executive session or at another time where the board members have a cutoff date for sales comparables. Some of our hearing officers,
Mr. Schley, that's gonna be quasi judicial deliberations, and I would respectfully request that that's an executive session.
okay, but my point is, we all have a different cutoff date. We're confusing our hearing.
Moving on
Well, yeah,
to
so
D, please.
discuss it together and we'll put out a memo.
Okay,
Mr. Celine,
that's it.
you're done with D then as well?
I'm finished.
All right, then, again, we will have an executive session following the meeting.
Personnel.
So we will now adjourn the Allegheny County Board of Property Assessment Appeals and Review meeting for June 20th, 2024. Thank you all for attending.
You have a great day.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Assessor Lou.
He likes Lou.
Yeah,
I know,
really,
I know.
I hate that title. I looked at it when I first started. I went into the state and the law to see if there was a way I could.
Just be Lou. I just like to be
Yeah.
Amy. I don't like to be Miss Shrimp or, so call me Amy, that's my name.
Yeah.
I think it's public meetings.
Have a great
I
day.
agree, but like, I mess up and I call people by their first name.
So do I, all the time. I've done it in appeals. It's a, I've done it, the lawyers.
I know, because you know them, right?
Yeah.
Let me-
And I would rather be called Amy, so, because people misspeak